I tell people now, like, if you're going to get into tech, really think about the job you're going after, especially with AI. Like, how likely is AI going to replace that skill set or big parts of that job to the point where they may not really need you or that job's really going to change?
When I was building out my projects, when something wasn't working because it wasn't building correctly, like it wasn't compiling right, that moment of like where it errored and failed, that's when I learned the most, because that's when I ended up going into like the documentation and reading like, why is this not working, actually researching like these error codes. And I feel like those step backs I had made me step forward like another like 5 steps.
I'd say build with it. Like if you're talking about learning, needing to learn AI in general or any skill set, right? It's all about building. For me, at least, that's where like I Rosetta Stone things in my mind.
My main things I would say are like networking, and building in public. Building in public's like huge for me. I would recommend everyone do it if you're job hunting, trying to get into tech, even like if you're already in tech but you want another job.
What's going on, everyone? We are back with another one. Today is a very, very, very special episode. I'm going to be honest, I'm really geeked out about this one. All right, let's get this thing started. I am one of your co-hosts today. My name is Danny Thompson. I'm the Director of Technology at This Labs.
One of your co-hosts, Leon Noel, Managing Director of Engineering for a lovely nonprofit called Resilient Coders and community member at 100 Devs.
I'm another one of your co-hosts. I'm Jeremy. I'm a software engineer at Apple.
Another one of your co-hosts here, Paris Chandler. I'm founder and CEO of Black Tech Pipeline.
I'm one of your co-hosts today. My name is Leah Thompson. I am a front-end engineer at Laravel, a conference speaker, and a community member for 100 Devs.
Hello, I'm one of your co-hosts, and my name is Yoon, and I'm a software engineer at NBC Universal. I'm a DSD community member, and I'm also a cohort team leader for our cohorts at DSD.
And last but not least, I'm Zac Wilson. I'm a contractor and I work for Meta, and I'm an early stage SaaS founder.
Let's go. I'm super excited for this one. And the reason why I'm excited, given the context to a lot of people that are listening to this, in one way, shape, or form, Leon and I have had the luxury to interact with people that are joining us today in their earlier parts of their journey, whether it was they went through a cohort, they went through a boot camp, they went through some kind of help, they gave back, they succeeded in a very obvious way, as you can hear from those intros. But the bigger point is they still wanted to give back to the community in some way, shape, or form. And I'm extremely proud of every single person here. I've had the luxury to meet everyone here prior to this call in one way, shape, or form. And I really think there's going to be a ton of value in this episode. I think we're going to be covering advice on what you could be doing right now in this current market, things that they have learned within reaching enterprise level organizations and things that they've witnessed within there, things that they've seen at the startup level, et cetera, a lot of topics. So if there was ever a value-filled episode, I think today's going to be that day. I guess let's start this off, and anyone can kind of grab this one. What was your journey into tech? What did that look like? Anybody feel like going first?
I can start. I was
Go for it, Zach.
a restaurant manager. So I was managing restaurants and had started looking into coding and got into this, like, I don't know, it's like $1,600 cohort. But then the pandemic happened and I got refunded my money. And I was driving home one day and there was a giant billboard that said launch code on it. And so I looked it up and saw that it had like good funding, good backers, and yeah, the rest is history. I guess from there, I signed up and made it in, and had Danny as my teacher assistant in that cohort. So learned from some good people. Yeah.
I think the short version of that is I bless people with FANG level jobs. So if y'all ever,
If you learned anything, yeah.
but you know what's funny is I said this in the cohort. There were some. I mean, it was a boot camp that we taught at in Bentonville, Arkansas, but it was remote. And the one thing that I saw was there were some people in that boot camp that were busting their tails off, and I don't know if Zach knows this, but there is often a story that I tell that is literally you from that cohort, from that boot camp. So whether you know it or not, I mean, I think I told you pretty much very frequently when we were there that I thought you were going to do something incredible. So the fact that you did it just proves that I'm right. But I like everything that you've done. So congratulations, kudos to you, sir. Anybody else?
So I was a wax specialist at European Wax Center, waxing body hair full time, and I thought I was going to be replaced by machines because of laser hair removal. And so I found out about resilient coders, and I got into the boot camp, and that's where I met Leon. That was the hardest time of my life. I've never done that much work in such a short period of time to learn front end web development. And from there, my career really took off. Short story, but yeah.
I always like to say Paris was the guinea pigs for RC. So
We were.
I'd been teaching at General Assembly for a little while, but we wanted to do something super short time frame, daily, bringing folks in from the communities that we work with, and we just had to see what worked. And so Paris has always been, from the jump, the person that had to go through what I would say is the worst version of RC, but really took all that and really went with it. And one of my favorite things about Paris is just how much their career has exploded, the things they've been able to work on, and the people that they've been able to help. Like, I think Danny and I just really love the idea of helping others get into tech, and that's what Paris gets to do every single day. And so it's been really cool to see them kind of go down that pathway and help so many folks get their jobs and things like that. And so definitely excited to hear kind of your takes on the market right now, what folks will be doing to get better jobs, things like that. So glad you're here.
Well, I'll tell you, Paris passes one of the biggest tests that I say a person has in life. And that's if you Google your name and you don't pop up, you got work. That's not a Paris problem. If you Google Paris, she's not just the first link. She's like the first 50 links. Like she's got the SEO game on lock. Like you can see all her accolades, the things that she's been a part of. Beyond impressive. Like I think I need to take some notes from you as far as like maximizing what it is that I'm being seen for, because it's very, very impressive.
I think you got that on lock, Danny. You and Leon.
I don't know. I get confused for some British musician like from the 70s. So
there's an Instagram account named Noel
still.
Leon that I've just been going to war with for the past, I don't know, 6 years.
You should have changed like a letter in your name, Danny, because I'm Leah Thompson, but I have the H, and the actress does not have the H. So that sets me apart.
There you go.
Lessons. I need to work on
This is what y'all come to the podcast for.
Yeah, right here.
The deep SEO cut techniques. There we go.
Does anybody else want to go before I move on to another question?
I can go.
Go for it.
So before getting into tech, I was working as a high school geometry teacher in Florida. So I guess even before that, I had my bachelor's of science in mathematics. When I graduated, I wanted to go more into grad school and do like statistics or bioinformatics or something like that. But I graduated during COVID, so like May of 2020. So there was a hiring freeze. My husband was still in college. We couldn't move. So I ended up going into education and working as a high school geometry teacher. I knew I didn't want to do that forever, like, because I just did it to make money. So after like 2 years in it, it was affecting my health really bad. So I decided to quit education in December of 2021 and was looking into going back to college for my master's, which was going to be expensive. My husband was working as a front-end engineer, and so I started thinking about like possibly me doing that because it was kind of like using mathematics and stuff. So I looked into it, found 100 devs on Reddit. I did not think that it was a scam, which a lot of people did. I saw like Leon's post about it. I was like, you know what? Let me just try this. It's free. So I tried that in January of 2022 and ended up like stuck with it, posted about it on Twitter, got really into it, and got my first job in tech by November of that year. So shout out to Leon because I did it through 100 devs.
You're the prototype of a 100 dev student. You make us all look good way more every single day. Stream team extraordinaire as well. Now just kind of, it's just like everything you'd want from someone that's like breaking into tech. Like Leah knows how to do it. And so I know so many other folks are watching their journey and learning from it. So anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you're not following them and seeing the moves that they're making, you're messing up because they know how to play the game. They know how to do the networking. They know how to highlight their skills, show what they're working on. Like everything that we talk about in this podcast, they do day in and day out. And so, yeah, please, all the folks that are on here today, you have to give them a follow.
I agree with that. Jeremy, Yoon, y'all want to go?
So my name is Yoon. So previously I was a project manager, but before I was a project manager, I was a computer science major at school, but I dropped out. And this was like 12 years ago, so it was a while ago. But computer science was always something that I wanted to pursue back then, but I got a job offer like midway through school, so I ended up taking it because it was the industry I wanted to be in, but it was in project management, and it was non-technical project management. And after about like a decade into it, I was just like, this is burning me out. This is not what I wanted to do originally. So I decided to do a career change in like the worst possible market, but I was stubborn, so I did it anyways. And I was looking online for options, and I was like, I don't really want to go back to school because I don't want to spend like another 2 years to like finish my degree, and then I feel like this market might get worse. So I went the boot camp route, but I went into boot camp knowing that this is just for a structured, like fundamental learning, because I wasn't expecting to get a job or anything like that afterwards. I knew I would have to put in the work and like self-study afterwards, but I needed that solid structure of foundations. So that's why I went the boot camp route. After I graduated, I self-studied for about an additional 6 months before I started applying for jobs. And then I applied for jobs, and I actually got quite a few offers. And then that's when I met Danny. I was like, Danny, which offer should I take? And then he gave me his input.
I forgot all about that. That is true, actually. I do remember that now. I just remembered that, like, I at that time I was streaming pretty often, so I remembered I had saw your resume. I was like, oh, this is like a legit good resume for someone that's trying to break into tech. Normally, the resumes people submit, they're pretty rough, and so I remembered that. And then I remembered you had like a portfolio site, and I was like, oh, this is like a legit portfolio site. Like, this is, you did your thing on this one, and I was like, oh, you got a lot of things going right for you. And the next thing I know, Yoon hits me up, and she's like, hey, I got this job offer. Do you think I should take it? I'm like, well, it's a job offer. That seems like they're paying decent. I got the second job offer. I'm like, okay, we got some momentum going on. There's some things going on here. Good for you. And then she killed it. She's still killing it now. Cool stuff. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, so my story goes back pretty far as well. I remember I've always been interested in sort of software engineering and the tech world, but I never thought I was smart enough to get into it. I remember quite a long time ago, this was around like 2010 or so, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should start learning Ruby on Rails." That was like the big thing back then. I opened up a book, and like the first page is thought, "Oh, I'm not smart enough for this," and just put it away. And but I was still interested, so it was sort of start stop for a while. I'd give some things a try in JavaScript and be like, yeah, you know what, still not smart enough for it. And then it wasn't until when was it? About 2017, 2018 or so, I was working at a consulting firm. I was doing learning and development, so I was putting together courses online and kind of managing all that. And I saw in the course building software there were some options for making things more interactive with JavaScript and CSS. And I thought, oh, cool, I want to make this course a little bit more fun so people actually want to do it. And somehow that's when things clicked for me, and I was off to the races. But with student loans and things, I just didn't have the money for boot camp. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to have to go it alone. Because I went it alone, it took me a really long time. It took me about 3.5 years with, working full-time job, taking care of my kids, COVID. It took a long time, but yeah, eventually I broke in.
Still a win. I always say it doesn't matter how long it takes to get there as long as you get there. So you can celebrate that. All right. I've got several questions top of my mind. Number one, a lot of the times when it comes to these podcasts, everybody think it's like sunshine, rainbows, leprechauns throwing water on you and whatnot. I know I've had many of these moments, but the question becomes like, on your journey, was it all like very straightforward, very easy, or what was your like rock bottom moment before things started like going the right way? Like, are there a couple moments that stuck out to you? Like, man, these moments were like the darkest moments. They were tough, but they were like maybe very essential for me to get from one position to the next.
I have one. So
go for it.
When I was going and applying to the jobs for like the first time after I did my whole like self-study, I got my first technical interview, and it was with JP Morgan. I don't know if I can say that, but it was with JP Morgan. It was for a junior DevOps position. And then I remember just absolutely bombing the technical. It went so bad. It was like it wasn't even like a hard question. It was just like a random, just like, can you manipulate the string? But I was just so bad at it, and I didn't know how to explain like my thought process. And then I think I just got so kind of like stuck in my head of like what to do, and I couldn't actually like show it. I did terrible and I did not get that job. But that was that moment where I was like, okay, I need to like go back to studying, and I really need to like up my lead code type of game. And then yeah, afterwards I was doing better in interviews.
Paid off.
I think that's a huge thing for a lot of folks to hear. There's so many people that put all this time to learn. They have that first initial bad interview and they go, oh, this is not for me. And they just disappear. Number of people that have gone through 100 devs have one bad interview and then like, that's it. Like it just reaffirms like all the doubts they had, all the things that they try to like shove down deep. It just comes out in that one thing. So when that happened, how did you go to the next one? Like what was that?
So for me, I like to evaluate what happened and what I could have done better. I kind of saw every interview opportunity as a way to just get better. So it was my first one. There wasn't much I can like compare it to, but I knew what was my like worst part of the interview, which was solving the lead code type question. And I was like, okay, I know this is my weak point. How do I get better at it? And that's pretty much what I did.
Say something similar happened with me, but it was like partially on the company as well. So I was interviewing with and I was supposed to interview for Angular position, front end dev, and I get in there and they give me Java stuff. So anyways, I quickly tried to redirect the interview, and it took them probably a good 20 minutes to give me the requirements verbally. They did not give them to me in paper form or in digital form like they did with the Java stuff. And I just kind of tried to make my way through. It was like a 2-hour project style interview. And anyways, needless to say, I got this project based, 2-hour interview, and it was the wrong stuff. But I, decided to go at it anyways. And needless to say, I bombed it. And so there was like a dichotomy of feelings. I was angry with them for kind of bombing the interview as well, not showing up prepared as they should have. And then something that the interviewing developer said when I said, what could I work on? They said, everything. So that was like skull crushing, spirit crushing. But I took it as a learning point. So I kind of used the anger, I guess, that I had with them, or the frustration, and kind of used that to fuel me and go back to the drawing board and just keep building. And, I just built for maybe another month and kept working on, leak code style problems. And then the next one was good. So
Nice. Anybody else?
For me, like if we're talking about technical wise, I only felt like that whenever we were doing the OOP part of 100 devs, we hit like OOP and I was like, this does not make any sense. I think it took me like 4 hours to get through a 30-minute video on it because I kept having to stop. And I was even talking to my husband. I'm like, OOP just doesn't make sense in JavaScript. And he's like, yes, it does. And I'm like, no. I was like, don't talk to me about it. That was probably my like crash out for technical wise. Really the hardest part for me was rejection, like at all. So like even just like applying to a job and getting rejected, that happened to me, I think in like July of that year. And I was like, I was like, I had the feeling where it's like, oh, I'm never going to get hired. Should I even be doing this? And I made myself like take a step back and just work on my 100 hours project at that time. But then once the 100 hours project was done, I couldn't like procrastinate applying to jobs anymore. So then I had to apply to jobs again and then get rejected even more. And so I would like cry constantly and worry like if I was even going to get a job, like if I should be in tech, if I was like the worst engineer ever, just taking like the rejection so personally because it's just hard for me. Even like this year when I was job hunting again, I like had that same feeling where it's like, oh, I'm too dumb to be in tech. It's like I've been in tech for 2.5 years. So it's like obviously I'm not, but it's just like getting past that. It's like having the rejection, but then like having to like steel myself and be like, no, you are like you're getting the interviews, you're good enough. Just keep practicing, keep doing them, and you'll get a job. And I got a job like 2 months, like a month and a half, 2 months after I just kept going. In 2022, and kind of same thing this year. I kept going, and within like 2 months, I had a job.
So I think for me, if I kind of think back, especially when you bring up, sunshine and rainbows, obviously I kind of struggle with interviews just like everyone else. But I think the real, oh, this is not sunshine and rainbows moment was actually starting in my first role because just like a lot of aspiring front end and web developers, I taught myself the Burn stack. But my first role was not anything Mern. It was not React. It was not anything like that. It was in a front-end framework called Ember, which is pretty old. It's been around for a long time. It's influential, but not many people use it. So not a lot of documentation. Like this was pre even Copilot days. So I didn't have any sort of AI tools to help with Stack Overflow. Everything on there is from like 10 years ago. So it was not only was there that kind of like big hurdle to just understand this completely different framework than React, but my PRs were just every single one, just absolutely line by line, just, really just torn apart. And it just made me think, yeah, you know what? I spent all this time and effort and now I'm no good at this at all. And eventually they're going to find out and let me go. But I just kept going and eventually that framework, Ember, started to make sense. My PRs started to have less and less feedback. And then things finally started to feel a little bit better. But yeah, those sunshine and rainbows, you think once you get your first role, everything is going to be great. But there's still a lot of challenges after that point, too.
I'll say, having those low moments, I think it's essential. I don't think for the vast majority of people that I've met at any successful level of where they are in their careers have ever like fully just walked into tech without really experiencing a lot of issues. I haven't met somebody like that. I will say that I think I've talked about it before, but I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the podcast. It was pre-pandemic when I finally convinced somebody to give me a phone interview. It was right at like that 3-month mark, I barely knew what JavaScript was at that point, to be honest with you. But like everyone tells you, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. I just figured out the difference between like margin and padding at this point, and I'm moving on to what an array is. But you know what? It's 3 months. Everybody talks about it. I remember running home from the gas station, do this phone interview, and I'm nervous. I'm sweating. I'm nervous. And like I dress in a suit, because I like dress for the job you want, not the job you have, that kind of whole thing. And I'm like, I know they can't see me, but it's going to get me in that mindset to get this corporate job, right? And I remember like, I'm working in my head how I'm going to respond to things, and I've got like every answer worked out. And so the interviewer, it was like, scheduled to be like an hour-long interview. And I remember she's like, Danny, I see you work at a gas station. Like, you're trying to change your circuit. Like, why do you want to be in tech? I'm like, gave her the answer, knocked it out of the park. I'm like, yeah, this is going to go great. And then, so they're trying to find out like what technologies. They said, Danny, there are technologies that we're looking for here. Do you know them? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, well, like, do you know JavaScript? I'm like, yes, I know JavaScript. I'm making a project right now with JavaScript, and I'm using it in this way, shape, or form. Knocked it out. I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, like we're trying to figure out, what your tech stack is. Like, do you know React? And I'm like, React, like happy, sad, mad. What are we talking about? Like, I know how to React. I was so new to JavaScript, I never heard the term framework or library. So I thought this was like the craziest question they could ask. But I know like they did behavioral, soft skill kind of things. So I'm like, maybe that's what she's asking me. And then I instantly heard an hour-long scheduled interview turn into 4 or 5 minutes. It's like, yeah, like this dude's not ready at all. And I was so crushed because I was like, oh, why didn't it work out for me? But I'm so grateful for that moment because it showed me what I lacked to be marketable within the industry. And after that, that's when I started understanding like there's a whole game you got to play and there's a whole strategy to this and la-da-da-da-da. And it's pretty much switched the whole way that I even look at interviewing even now. So, With that being said, I do have a question. You all have gained a lot of experience over these years. You've grown in one way, shape, or form professionally. My question to you is, from a technical standpoint, forget like soft skills and all that stuff for a moment, because we're definitely going to go down that tangent. But from a technical standpoint, what are some things that you wished you spent a little bit more time on? But also now working in the companies that you've worked in, are there certain things that you've witnessed, seen, or learned that you're like, man, if I could go back and like learn this, and this, my whole journey would be even a little bit different than the way that it is right now?
Oh my God, I have one. Testing. I wish I dove deeper into testing when I was like in that phase of I'm learning, I'm trying to get a job. I wish my projects just had deeper testing knowledge, because I had like basic unit tests. I did like Postman like stuff manually, so I knew what testing was at a very basic level. But I didn't understand there was like integration tests, end-to-end tests, like all of these regression tests and then unit tests, and you can go on forever with testing. They even have like, what is it, like test-driven development. So, oh my God, please learn testing, because it is so important.
I think for me, I actually wish that I spent more time on JavaScript fundamentals and not just chasing like every little thing that I saw in a job description. So I'd look like, okay, this requires this framework. Okay, got to learn that. Okay, this requires some type of library, styled components. Okay, got to learn that. And then by the time I learned these things, I'd move to the next job description and it would have something totally different. So I'm spending all my time on these different libraries instead of having a very strong set of fundamentals. And that was the one thing I really struggled with when I first started, was I get a lot of criticism on my PRs for not having strong fundamentals. And I think that would have saved me. Not only would that have sped up my time to land my first role, but it would have made my kind of first, couple months, year, a lot less painful.
I totally get you, Jeremy, because I feel like I was a non-coder and then I'm learning JavaScript, which is already really difficult because my brain doesn't think like that. And at the same time of Java, like vanilla JavaScript, I'm learning React and React Native for my side projects. And then I ended up getting a job that used jQuery. And I'm like, oh, now I'm going back, right? So I was all over the place and I wasn't able to really like take my time learning one thing or the other. And I think that really just messed me up and it didn't allow me to grow as a developer. And that's probably why I was so happy when I was able to sort of escape coding as a job, because I never truly got to understand it and practice it the way I wanted it to.
You said so much valuable stuff there. So many valuable things there, because I often talk to people where they're like, oh, I'm learning how to code, I don't really like it, but I'm doing it because maybe it's a change or something. I just said it doesn't have to be the thing that you love, but it could be through that path of like learning and exposure, because you can't know that you want to work in XYZ if you don't know it exists. So if coding is the path that educates you on it, that could be the right thing. It doesn't have to be the thing, but it could be the thing that leads you to the path that you want to be on. And so if you're a developer that's finding yourself in a similar situation, I don't think there's any harm or foul. Maybe you end up realizing you like UI UX. That could be a path for you. Maybe you end up liking bossing folks around. Project manager could be a thing for you. Like there's tons of areas that you could be in besides just writing code for a living. So if it's not the thing that you like, and I'm not the type of person that says like, you must love to code if you want to be, I'm not that type of person. But I will say that it makes the days go by a little bit better if you like it. But I think money is a good motivator too. And if you can execute at a high level, you'll definitely find some pay with it. But you can definitely find pay in a lot of other fields that are adjacent to this that you may find success with. So it's something to keep in mind if you're finding yourself in a similar boat.
Or DevRel too. If you like enjoy talking about it and you enjoy parts of the code, but maybe not like actually coding, you could look into like DevRel. Some companies you still code a lot as DevRel. Other companies you don't code at all. So it really just depends.
I have a hot take on DevRel that I get in trouble for sometimes. I worked in DevRel, so I think I'd say it from my perspective that there are a lot of interesting parts of DevRel, but I often feel it's one of the most vulnerable positions in an organization, because when things go wrong and they need to start trimming fat, they're going for some easy wins, and DevRel unfortunately ends up becoming one of them so often, more times than not. Like there's somebody who, I won't say his name, but I think they're an absolute literal genius. 13, 14 years of experience. They got let go through a company restructure, and they've been trying to get a job, and they have gone through more interviews than I've ever seen a human being go through, even given all their experience. And so it's just a scary thing to see that firsthand, who somebody with, like, I'm talking about mountains of experience, have trouble getting in. And it's not because he can't talk. It's not because he can't educate, but it's simply because, number one, the competitive landscape. But number two, it's because oftentimes companies are like cutting those positions. And right now, the way the market is, a lot of those positions are in like a free-for-all kind of situation. I'm just terrified of it. But that is not to say don't do it if you want to do it. It is to say I'm a believer that people should have a full picture when they think of something. So it's just offering that secondary side that some people don't often talk about.
I agree. I tell people now, like, if you're going to get into tech, really think about the job you're going after, especially with AI. Like, how likely is AI going to replace that skill set or big parts of that job to the point where they may not really need you or that job's really going to change? So really look into that before you dedicate all of this time, money, effort into it.
Yeah, I don't believe a ton of the AI hype, like, where they're going to replace all developers. I just seen so much, but I do think there will be skill sets that are automated away. And so, or it will evolve what it looks like. And if you're not moving with the evolution, you're putting yourself in a very jeopardized position that a lot of people I'm seeing firsthand in. And right now, I believe that we are in what I call the forgiveness bubble of AI, meaning, oh, you don't know this? We're still trying to figure it out too. But in a year from now, what will that tone be? Will they still forgive you for not knowing that thing when you've had a year to learn it and everybody else is learning it? A lot of companies, even at work right now, they're bringing us in to their companies to educate them on AI best practices and how to AI enable their teams to use best practices internally. They're not bringing us in to build AI tooling, which some companies are doing wrong, but they're bringing us in, how do you leverage Cursor in a meaningful way? How do you leverage Windsurf? How do you leverage Copilot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Because they want that to be skilled up. And so in a year from now, if you're still like not well versed on those subjects, I think a lot of those conversations are going to go in a negative way for you. So I don't care, even if you're like a UI UX person, that's probably something that you want to start studying and learning up on now. So that way you're ahead of the curve instead of behind it.
I think that's a good segue too. We have a lot of folks on the call that are non-traditional pathways, right? Where you've taken it upon yourself to learn, the upskill, managing job, managing life, everything else along the way. So especially when folks are presented with this new skill that's in demand that folks have to know to be competitive, what advice would you give to someone who's breaking into tech, adding these skills? Maybe they're a developer for a while, but are knowing they have to add these skills. Like, what advice would you give them that helped you as you were kind of upskilling and learning these things?
I'd say build with it. Like if you're talking about learning, needing to learn AI in general or any skill set, right? It's all about building. For me, at least, that's where like I Rosetta Stone things in my mind, and and maybe I jumped on the AI hype train early, but just being able to play with it. I mean, I was doing integrations as soon as ChatGPT released their API. Small integrations here and there, getting the hang of how to use their API and et cetera. And it just kind of branched out from there. And then I kind of started learning about fine tuning, learning about other models, how I could use them, and then started delving even deeper from there. So it's kind of one of those things. So if it's like you're really early in your journey, you should be only utilizing it, in my mind, in certain ways, kind of more of an educator and less of a do this type of thing, vibe coding, if you will, because then you're kind of skipping out on the fundamentals. It's a lot easier to use in the hands of people who know how to use the things.
Kind of goes back to what Jeremy and Paris were talking about the fundamentals when they were going through the JavaScript land and how important that piece could be. Where people keep that in mind.
Yeah, I was I started doing iOS development in September, and for iOS development, you use Xcode. It doesn't have a really strong AI tool set, but it does have Apple Intelligence, which does some code completion. And I used it, but I tried to really make sure that I understand what was happening, because I was still a noob to Swift and iOS development. And if I pushed up some code that I couldn't really respond to. I couldn't speak to what I was doing. I knew that I was just going to get, I was going to hear about it, and it wouldn't be good. So I think to Zach's point, like, yeah, when you're starting off, make use of it because it's really powerful, but really understand at a deep level what it's building for you. Because if you just let it go and kind of generate code for you, just let it hold your hand, you're still not really gonna, it's gonna be too passive. You're not gonna really like learn anything. I think it's not gonna reinforce it in your mind.
So, yeah, I agree with what Jeremy says because I actively avoided ChatGPT because I did not want it to code for me at all. Because if I start it, I'm not going to stop. So just don't start it to begin with. And when I was building out my projects, when something wasn't working because it wasn't building correctly, like it wasn't compiling right, that moment of like where it errored and failed, that's when I learned the most, because that's when I ended up going into like the documentation and reading like, why is this not working? Actually researching like these error codes. And I feel like those step backs I had made me step forward like another like 5 steps.
I think like something else, especially for people who are already in the industry that have been like scared to use AI tools and stuff like that, is more not so like a tip of using it, but like a mindset shift of just seeing it as another tool. So not like seeing it as something that's inherently bad and going to make you forget how to program, but just seeing it as like a tool you can use. Because it's kind of like with tutorials, right? Tutorials are great, but like people starting out can fall into the trap of just using tutorials and copying code from tutorials. And again, they're not learning anything because they're just copying the code from the tutorials and not actually thinking what they're writing. It's the same thing with AI. Like AI can be super useful, but you just have to make sure you understand what it's giving you. And I've just realized that like recently because I didn't even use any AI tools with programming anything until like last month. And now I'm like, oh, now I understand why it's like so important. Because I thought, oh, I'm not going to know how to code. I'm going to like forget certain things. I'm learning new things even by using AI to like help me write things because it'll explain what it's doing. And I just don't accept something if I don't understand it. And I can still research it and like compare what I'm finding with what it's giving me. And like at some point, instead of like continuing to like vibe code or like ask it to tweak things for me, I make sure I can tweak it myself, that I understand what it's doing. So just having that mindset shift that it's a tool that helps you do your work faster, right? And helps you meet deadlines and keep things going, especially at like a startup. Like I'm at a startup now. There's only 60 people. We're in like hyper growth mode. I shipped a landing page that I worked on for only like 2-3 weeks last week. So it's like using AI tools, I'm able to actually like code faster, you know, and meet those deadlines. So just thinking of it in that way, I think will hopefully make it easier for people to finally get on the AI tool train.
Yeah, I have a bunch of developers I work with that we obviously have access at Meta to a lot of different AI tools, and they're kind of almost force fed to you in such a way. But you know, some of the developers I work with have been very hesitant about it, and I just keep kind of just jazzing them a little bit, like, you know, you get left behind, just joking, because they're amazing developers, but they know it too. Even, you know, through just this past year and a half or whatever, where we've really been seeing AI kind of take off, that they know that they're gonna have to learn it. And so I feel like if people are kind of timid about it or hesitant about it, I would say don't be. Use it. It can be extremely helpful, and especially like, you know, learning how to integrate it into your toolings. You know, how like, yes, I can use it to help me develop quicker, but I can also, you know, integrate it in for clients. I can help them use it in the way they want to use it, which I think is an important skill.
Maybe a more serious question here. Within your journey, I'm sure there's been a week where you're like, this was probably the worst week I've ever had in my life. If you, like, what was that week for you? What went wrong? What did you get from it? Did you get anything from it? Did you just survive it? Was it a moment where you're like, damn, you know, I could breathe again? You just kind of navigated it. Like, what was that for you?
I feel like I had way too many to count, especially during my job searching journey. I had so many mental breakdowns. Oh my God. I just lost count at one point. But I learned to give myself a break. Like, I feel like everyone is so hard on themselves when they're trying to find that job and they're trying to do like what they need to do to get that first job. They're like, well, I'm going to fail if I don't do this like nonstop. But sometimes you just have to like just step back a little bit, let yourself rest, and then go back into it. Because I noticed that when I did give myself that like forgiveness and I was like, it's gonna be okay. Like it's okay to like give myself a break for a few days or like a week. I think I took like 2 weeks off before and I still got to where I wanted to be. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, I think to Yoon's point that making sure that you step back and rest when you have those moments is really crucial. Actually, I had one fairly recently. It's not just something that happens along your journey; it happens throughout your entire career. For me, I was kind of struggling learning this new Swift concept, and then I had to dive back into the web UI. I had to do some Ember work, and it was like I completely forgot JavaScript, and I was just struggling. And I pushed up a PR, and then it just got a whole lot of feedback, and I just thought I can't do anything anymore. Like, and it really made me question a lot of things about, I was still questioning, like, can I even do this? Like, I'm struggling with a basic JavaScript thing now. And yeah, I had to step back, like Yoon said, and really kind of take the time to be a little bit more introspective about myself, give myself grace, like she said, like Yoon said. And it turned out to be a pretty profound moment of growth for me. So yeah, these difficult moments, if you're able to rest and give yourself grace and look deeply into yourself, you can really grow from them.
I think for my the hardest part for me was like the beginning of my tech journey, like trying to find a full-time job. After Resilient Coders, I got a 3-month summer internship and they didn't offer me a full-time job after that. So I had to go off on my own and find one. And I failed I could not get past the interviews because they were all algorithmic challenges. And I was just like a front-end developer. Like I can build you a website, but I can't figure this like thing out. And what happened was I got my first job through someone in my network was like, hey, my friends are hiring for a startup. Do you want a job? And I did a quick interview and I got that job. And from there, I was like, if I ever lose this job, I'm always just going to lean into my network. And that was always how I ever got a tech job. And that's what I learned. I was like, network, very, very valuable. Make sure you expand it, focus on it, build those relationships. And that's like a learning lesson, I guess, and a tip for those looking for jobs.
I'd say just probably about 6 months ago, we were working on an incredibly complex feature at work, and I spent half the sprint so sometimes I'll really try and challenge myself, and I'll pick what I think is going to be the hardest or most complex task out of the bin. And I had this thing for about a week and got quite a bit done with it, but it just was banging my head against the keyboard constantly. And finally, after a week, I just had to relinquish control of that diff, and I just had to, it took a lot for me because I just felt very inapt. And really, though, every single one of my team members all struggled with it. Even the dev lead, just trying to get things to work in the way that we had wanted and architected it to. And so it took a little bit of humility, and that whole week, I was just completely down on myself. And I'd come home from work, and it was all I would think about was this feature, and I couldn't do anything else because I was obsessed with it. But once I got the opportunity to just relinquish it and let somebody else take a stab at it, I got to work on some other stuff that made me feel adept again, and then B, I got that kind of break from that specific part of the feature that was so complex, and I got the learning lesson of seeing everybody else iterate through it, talk about it, and so I kind of learned that lesson that sometimes that's the way that it is.
I hope people listen to this episode.
Yeah.
Every little thing has been gold. I think so many people that are trying to break into tech or going for their first role or going for their second role, no one ever really talks about, no, I cried for a week. Like I took a week off. No, I'm on the job and this still happens. Like, cause I'm context switching between different things. And like, I think people need to hear it. And so I'm glad you all have shared so much about your journey and what it's like still being kind of active in your journey, because there's just like, we were sold a lie like 5 years ago where it's like, in 3 months you get this amazing job. And like, no, it's like, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that you all have put into to get to where you are. It's a lot of things that if people ever need an excuse, you'll get an excuse throughout this process to not get to where you all are at, right? Whether it's the interviews, whether it's the learning, whether it's something, there's always going to be an excuse that you could use. Be like, you know what? Not for me. I'm not going to do it. I'm out. That's it. And so I guess because you sprinkled so many tidbits around, but for someone that's listening to this, they've been with us for an hour. They're energized now. They're pumped. They're like, all right, I can do this. I see a path. I've seen what these folks had to go through to get to where they are. What advice would you give them on that path into tech or finding that role that works for them? What would you want them to like walk away with? Like if you could condense your whole journey into a tidbit for them to like incorporate, what would that be?
I recommend finding a mentor if you could find one. I feel like I was lucky enough to get a mentor pretty early on when I wanted to do that career change. And I feel like that was very substantial to how I got my job, because there's one thing you can learn from like whatever boot camp, school, whatever structured learning that's available out there. They have like a curriculum, but that curriculum is kind of like set. It may not be updated. It may not be what people are actually using at work. So having a mentor who's actually working and actively in a position that you are aiming for, they know like the tools and they know everything that you need to learn to actually be able to do that job and be entry level and be ready for that position. So if you're able to tap into someone who has that knowledge, I feel like that gives you a pretty big of a boost of getting into that journey and actually reaching your goal.
I want to just add one extra thing onto that. I think Yoon is right, but one thing I'll say is if you are in a position where you can't get a mentor, a community is a phenomenal second option to tap into.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, because I've never had a mentor. I wish I had, but I can definitely see value in it. But if you have a community of great developers, I still think to this day, people are the sum of the influences that they keep around them. And if you look at this panel right now, I've got some great influences around me. So I'm loving it right now. But surround yourself with some good people.
Well, even if you don't have a mentor, if you join a community, you can get like unofficial mentors through doing that. Like Sashi Lowe started like the was it Gridiron Survivor? Yeah, Gridiron Survivor and stuff like that. I'm in that same Discord server as like him and Mike Chin and stuff. So if I ever need help, I could just post in there and they'll act as like my mentors, even though I never like officially had one.
Yeah, and I think
Ew,
like if
Shashi
you
Love.
along on the topic of having a mentor and joining a community, like you have to actually engage with people if you want to build relationships and find people to help you and help you navigate the industry. So once you're in these places, make sure you are commenting, giving, I don't know, just engaging, be active.
And be genuine when you're engaging. Like, not that you're
Yes.
trying to get something from them, you're being their friend, which, like, my main things I would say are
Yes.
like networking, and building in public. Building in public's like huge for me. I would recommend everyone do it if you're job hunting, trying to get into tech, even like if you're already in tech, but you want another job. Learning in public has helped me get every job I've accepted so far. I don't like doing personal networking. Instead, I just build in public, post stuff on Twitter. I'm very public. And then I make friends with people by like commenting, putting myself in like Discord groups and just spamming memes and stuff like that, you know? And that has gotten me referrals and stuff like that. So you don't have to do, I mean, you should probably do targeted networking too. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, then definitely at least build in public and make friends.
So on this topic, I would love to give a shout out to DSD, the Dallas Software Developers, because one of the cohorts I was a part of, I forgot if it was was it a second cohort, third cohort or something like that? It was one of the earlier ones. But being a part of that cohort even though there was some troubles with it, it still was a big part of why I got my current job, because I interviewed for the job. I actually didn't get the job that I applied for and interviewed for. The vice president of my organization just happened to be present in my panel interview for some reason. I have no clue why. I think he was just bored and he was there. So he was just like, hey, this girl, I kind of like her. I want her to work on this team because I think her skill set would be better matched for this other team. So I ended up interviewing with this other team after being told I didn't get this job that I applied for. But my senior director, who was the hiring manager and the one interviewing me at that time, she was asking me what I was doing outside of like my boot camp and just learning stuff traditionally. And I told her I was part of DSD and I was doing this cohort, and because I knew I was lacking that like group project type of experience. And she was so impressed that I went out of my way to I identified this gap I had. I went out of my way to join this group and do this cohort so I could fill in that gap. So I would say reach out to people, do network, do join meetups, because it may help you out with ways that you'll never expect it to.
Yeah, so similarly, I'm a pretty social person, so I always suggest to people huge in networking. I'm talking any type of meetups, any type of conferences, any type of hackathons. You should be trying to get there, as often as you can, and trying to make those connections. The nice thing about hackathons in particular is you're building. You get to walk away with a project. You get to work with the team, and those are a lot of the aspects that are needed in this career path. And then I always remember that pretty much all of my jobs throughout life, even before software, it was all through connections, and usually it'd be friends or family. But once I kind of realized that, it's like, I'm not going to be one of these people sending off 1,000, resume and applications. Nothing against doing that, but I just wanted to, I don't know, I view it as a game, and I'm going to play the game.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of two things. We've talked a lot about the importance of a mentor and a community, both things that I didn't have when I was learning. I remember before I got in my first role, I remember seeing Dan, you posting a lot go to meetups. I'm like, I'm not going to meetup. Everyone's going to think I'm stupid. No one's going to like me. I won't know what to say. And I really wish I had done that, because one thing that I've learned, the value of a mentor is not just someone who gives you a lot of knowledge, but it's someone that gives you a lot of emotional support and always believes in you and is always wanting to go to bat for you. Like my previous role, my previous company, my team lead was the one who interviewed me, and he was the one who took a chance on me, even though I didn't have the skill set they were looking for. And during my first year, I struggled. I had so many questions, but he always took the time to answer those questions, and he always just believed in me no matter what. He always gave me he'd give me really hard tickets, and I'd look at him and be like, I cannot do this. He'd be like, you can do it. You'll be all right. And he was always that person that just always went up to bat and always believed in me. And that was something that I never really had growing up. I've had teachers telling me all my life, you're the dumbest kid in the school. You're hopeless. It was finally someone that really believed in me. And having a community or a mentor that gives you that emotional support, that supports you to achieve your dream, is just an incredible power. So having a community or a mentor isn't just getting knowledge. It's so much more than that. And I think everyone mentioned when you network, don't just say, hey, give me a job, or hey, give me a referral, or hey, build that relationship, because it'll be something you can keep with you kind of all your life, and it'll keep motivating you.
I want to ask a question that I believe only really one person here is qualified to answer, and it's Paris. And I would feel like I missed an opportunity to ask it, since we literally have the creator of Black Tech Pipeline on the podcast. So it feels very weird not to ask us. And then we'll go to the group, ask all of us a question segment. My question that I have for you, Paris, is we now know the current job market, very difficult compared to previous years. I have a take on this, I don't necessarily think this is the episode for it, but I do think we will probably never see what we saw in 2022. And people often reference that as a time that they compare things to. You being in the capacity that you are, where you're literally placing people in roles, you're working with companies to get them candidates. Like you're not seeing one side, you're seeing both sides of the conversation. What is it looking like to you? Like, how are you navigating this right now to help people?
So I am being transparent. So we are never, I don't want to say never, maybe like if another pandemic, God forbid, happens, but that job market isn't coming back, and it was very circumstantial to that time only. I don't see it coming back. And while the job market is in tech is doing better than like last year, it's still not those numbers we saw previously. And the job market is also shifting, and we're still seeing, tons of layoffs. We're seeing outsourcing, hiring freezes. We're still seeing all of these things. So it is really hard. There's like a lot of competition, and there is a lot of like, it's not like the job market is full of, oh, just entry level and, poor performers. That's not true. Like the job market is full of incredible talent right now. That are also struggling to get those jobs. So it's difficult. And that's why I wanted to reinforce so clearly that networking is so important, because you are more likely to get a job if you are going through your network and getting referrals. I have a job board. I think you should still use it, but you're just going to be more likely getting a job or landing opportunities through someone that who works, at a place.
I co-sign everything that you said. I could go down that rabbit hole. Let's avoid it. I get people mad at me every episode for stuff like that. So,
wait, are they getting mad at me? Wait, what do you mean?
No.
You got this time. They're throwing the darts at you, Paris. That's it. You take the bullet.
He
this
set
time.
you up.
That's why
I take it every week.
You're the fall for this
There's
episode.
actually one more thing I wanted to say. Can I just say one more thing about that too?
Yes.
When it does also, I've gotten, as just a recruiter, a lot of candidates have yelled at me. A lot of job seekers get mad at me because they're like not hearing back, and they feel like you said this at the beginning, they're doing everything right and they're still not hearing anything back. Honestly, again, it's because of the competition, but also people really don't utilize certain tools, or they're not really doing their best with like their resume and things that take extra work to be seen. They're not doing those things because it does take a long time, and job hunting is already like a full-time job in itself, but it is a sacrifice and you do have to put in that time and effort. It's not fun, but that is how you go about landing opportunities.
I'll tell you like this. I hear all the time, almost every single time when someone gets mad at me on social media, we're like, this job market is a scam and la da da da. I got a degree, and now you get a degree, you can't even get a job. I'll be honest, a degree, and people get mad all the time, a degree doesn't guarantee employment. I know that was the dream that you were sold on, and it's unfortunate, and you got debt based upon that, and that sucks. But the reality is, it doesn't. And so we can get mad, we can get upset, we can feel like we lost something, all valid feelings, but it doesn't change the circumstances. And so the question then becomes, do we now pivot to what the game is, or do we stay in the situation wallowing, wishing things would change and not really putting in the effort? It's funny, on Twitter in 2022, if you say, hey, if you're going to get a job, you're going to have to work your behind off, people would get mad at you. Now, those same people are working their behind off because guess what? It's more competitive than it's ever been before to land an opportunity. So I don't think you can erase one big aspect of this, is that you have to work hard, especially now, to really branch out when there is a lot of competition. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's absolutely possible. I'm just saying it's not easy. And so I think that's something that people should be aware of.
Yeah, I know we want to live in the principle, but the reality is like it is an employer's job market, and you're going to have to either get with it or you're going to lose opportunity, unfortunately.
I was saying, and also that a lot of jobs never get posted. So if you're not networking, you're missing out on a ton of opportunities because you see the jobs that are just on LinkedIn that you're competing with everyone else. Whereas there's a lot of jobs out there that if you knew someone at the company, you networked, you could get, and they're never posted. You don't even have competition for.
I think I might get some hate for this, but in my opinion, I think tech is actually stabilizing with when it comes to the job market, because tech is such a young industry compared to every other industry out there. So there is always going to be like a spikes, like whether it be like layoffs or like mass hires and whatnot. But now I think it's starting to normalize where like this is the bar and that this is what you have to do to get in. And it's like you can't just coast by with a degree anymore and like get your C's, get degrees. Like that doesn't really work anymore. You need to go and get internships. You need to do stuff, and then you need to like do that extra work now to get in. Because first of all, what kind of job gives a new grad like 6 figures? Like that's really rare. So just to have that expectation of I'm going to get this job that pays me 6 figures fresh out of college, like you need to do and put in that work to get there.
You're right, Yoon. People are going to hate you, but
Just blame Danny. Send them all to Danny.
whoa,
You were blaming all of us earlier.
they already do that. They already do that anyway. I will say that if you are in that position of trying to find a job, you don't know strategies. Honestly, we covered that a lot in some of these previous episodes. I highly, highly recommend checking them out. Like there's entire game plans here for you to utilize in order to start leveraging these to increase visibility, to increase networking capabilities. Heck, the last episode, as of the time of recording this, is literally called The Art of the DM. What do y'all think that's covering at that point, right? That is like the ultimate hack when it comes to networking at any level. And you know what's the one comment? It stuck with me. I'm going to read it verbatim because this comment, since I read it, it's like been in my mind. This person wrote, "This video made me realize that I have no idea how to make friends. I just sort of made casual friends due to proximity, but now that I don't have regular contact with anyone in the field of tech, it is so blank hard to make friends. But what I can do, and I've realized it now, is send a couple LinkedIn messages with your very amazing advice." I think that right there has kind of made why Leon and myself prioritize time every week to do this thing. Because I will tell you, it is a pain with our schedules, and we often have issues trying to get the stuff out. And to be honest, if we didn't have a buffer, I don't know how we would have done this thing. Like all the episodes that we have recorded in between is the only way we can maintain this. But stuff like that is kind of why we've done this, because people just don't realize what they're missing, what they're lacking. I did a live stream the other day where we're reviewing portfolios, right? And people are like, everything I'm doing, I should be getting a job and nobody's calling me. And you look at their stuff, it's like, dude, there's nothing here. Like, what do you even want me to review here? And they act like, because we do love our Pokemon here, a shocked Pikachu. And like their face is like, what? You mean this? It wasn't enough? They're so shocked. All right.
Danny, they have 2 TikTok.
We're way over time. 2 TikTok. All right. So I'm just going to do this in the order that I see it on the screen. So in today's Ask Danny, Leon, Yoon, Leah, Zac, Paris, and Jeremy, I'm taking this in a different angle with the question, because we have quite a few questions that have been submitted. I think they're all great. But I think given the breadth of experience and the levels of experience, I thought this would be a very interesting question to ask. Let's all play Imagine for a second. And let's imagine that you are sitting on the train or the bus and someone walks in and sits right next to you and they are crying, and you realize that they just walked out of a tech interview that they bombed miserably. You have 90 seconds to offer whatever potential help you can. What do you say to them?
They bombed the tech interview. You're sitting next to them on the train, and you have 90 seconds to like give them some advice.
While they're crying, right? They're sobbing.
While they're crying.
While they're crying.
Please move over. I was sitting here.
Damn, it took my answer so greedy on.
No, I think I have 90 seconds. I'm going to talk about somebody from 100 Devs community, Blah. They went into one interview. They left crying just like you are right now. The very next day, they went into an interview and walked out with a senior 6-figure offer. Nothing changed in between those two interviews. It's about finding a fit, not only for yourself, but for the company and everyone there. And so when you go into your interviews, you want to be analytical, not critical. What can I learn? What can I take? What can I use in my next ones? And then it's finding the right fit. Every company's not the right fit for you. This one was not, but your next one, the very next one that could be tomorrow, could be.
I'd stop crying right there, you know?
There you go.
Now please move over.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I just asked ChatGPT how many companies in the US exist, and I know most of them use tech in some way. So there are 33 million companies in the US. Now you can go apply to 32 million more.
Ooh, I love that angle. I go with a different angle, which I'll say on mine, but I like that angle a lot, actually. Anybody else?
I feel like for me personally, honestly, when people cry in front of me, I kind of freeze up. So if that happens to me, I'll just kind of be like that awkward person that would like pat their back, be like, it's okay. It's like, it's okay. Like you'll do good in like your next interview. I don't know how helpful I'll be, to be honest.
Yeah. If I think realistically, if someone sat next to me and was crying, I would like huddle next to the window and like look away anxiously and be like, maybe ask like, you need a tissue? Like I'd be really stressed out. But if it's like someone who asked me on like the internet or like one of my friends who came to me crying, I would definitely give them a pep talk. Kind of like Leon's. I think I would just kind of tell them about how interviewing's hard. The tech market or the job market is hard right now. Just because you got rejected doesn't mean you're not going to get a job. That if you didn't get that opportunity, then it's not the opportunity for you. It's not meant for you. And that you might have really wanted that job, but in the long run, you'll see that it just wasn't for you, and where you end up is better for you. Just like 2 months ago, I got rejected by 4 companies, was in the trenches, sobbing, and then ended up at my dream company. And now everything's great. Like it's better than any of the places that I wanted and cried over. So just keep your head up, keep going. Know that those just weren't for you. I mean, obviously keep prepared, like bettering yourself. If there's stuff that you can take from those interviews to then like actionable things that you can then study and do better on, do that, but just keep going.
I would just tell them that their favorite programmer has the same story. You know, we've all been through it, and you know, it sucks. It's hard. It's never easy, but you know, your favorite programmer's been through it. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just part of the industry, and so it's similar. You know, like we wouldn't know good if there wasn't bad. You know, so it's kind of one of those things where if you view it like that, like, yes, maybe it wasn't a good opportunity for you. It seemed like it, but there's always going to be something else. Now, it's how you pick yourself up and move forward.
When you were saying favorite program, were you referencing me? I get it.
No, your favorite programmer's favorite programmer. So.
Oh, James Quick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. You took it from my goat like that? Wow.
It is, Jay. I understand. I'm working on it.
Yoon, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think one last thing I would like to say regarding this topic, especially for someone who's coming with an untraditional background, I would say you need to think in a way where you need to make yourself the least riskiest applicant in that candidate pool. Because I feel like a lot of people go into it with the mindset, we're like, well, I hit these bare minimums of what they're looking for. But you can't be that bare minimum, especially when you're in that untraditional background. You need to be the best out of everyone who's applying because they need to take that chance on you. So be analytical about every interview that you get to see how you can better yourself to be better. And that's pretty much how it is if you want to get a job right now without going that computer science internship route.
Yeah, I think the way that I would address this, I love all your answers, by the way. Sincerely, I think some people listening to this would get some value out of this one. And if I had it recorded, I'd share it with the person crying. But now we do, so we can link them to this Spotify or YouTube video whenever someone's having that moment, right? What I will say here is if I saw somebody crying, I would tell them the truth that it sucks, and it's okay to feel like it sucks. And if it's painful right now, I think there's nothing better than acknowledging that so you can get past it, because the more you disregard it, the longer it sticks around. And I often remember, and I've talked about this in talks. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the podcast. The first job that I genuinely thought I had in tech that matched everything that I wanted. And I remember even the final round of that interview was between me and two other people, and it was with like the VP of that company. And I remember him even laughing with me on the way out. He put his arm on my shoulder and patted me on the way out. And he's like, Danny, you're going to hear from us. And I'm like, oh, I got this in the bag. Like, this is over with. Like, he's chuckling with me and everything. Like, this is done. I go home. I run by the store. I'm cooking steaks for us to celebrate, me and my wife. I remember the skillet on there, and I get the call, and they're like, Danny, we're letting you know we went in another direction. I was sick to my stomach. I've never been so sick in my entire life. Just stomach turning sick. It was the first time I missed work for non-real reasons. I stayed in bed for 2 days. I was just sick. Yeah, I was sick, but you know what? I'm a genuine believer that the universe sees things, hears things, and witnesses things that you haven't been privy to. And it will remove something, even though it may seem attractive in that moment, to kind of guide you to the thing that you need to be at. And it wasn't even a week later after that I ended up getting the call for the company that ended up becoming the first job in tech. But knowing what I knew at that moment, I thought that that company aligned perfectly with me. But the actual real opportunity was that next company, because they were giving me mentorship. They were allowing me to spearhead opportunities. And I genuinely believe this, that job catapulted my entire career, whether I realized it or not in that time. I don't think I would be where I am now if it wasn't for that first opportunity, just being completely honest about it. So what I would say is, learning to code is not a romance novel. There's going to be painful moments. There's going to be great moments, but be petty and make them eat those words. Like, seriously, be as petty as you can and let your success be the thing that they're like, damn, we really missed something here. And if they don't tell you that, that's even better. Let them witness it from a side and make snide comments because you just killed it that much more. I think that's going to be the best thing that you could ever do with your life. You'll enjoy it because of that. And to be honest, failure is one of the best things that you can go through, because it's the thing that ends up letting you to strategize your next moves. If everything is happy-go-lucky, sunshine and rainbows, oftentimes you don't learn what you need to learn from it. And that is why people struggle in interviews to this day that have many years of success in tech. How many people do I get on a call with 10 years of experience that can't pass an interview right now? Because they've never had to fight for it, and they don't know what it is to do to advocate for their skills in this current market. This is like the biggest struggle we have with most people that are trying to get jobs. And so I'll say it like this, and I'll end it like this. I'm not a motivated individual. I've never really been quote unquote motivated, just because motivation comes and goes like the wind. It disappears in a moment's notice. I genuinely believe that I'm like the complete polar opposite of being motivated. But what I am often enough is driven, and my drive is just genuinely unstoppable. And I believe that if someone ever doubts that I can do something, that I'll literally shift this earth to make sure that they can see it's possible. No one should ever doubt me. Don't allow anybody to doubt you. This industry will be better with you in it. Give me a reason to celebrate you. This table is big enough for the both of us. So come sit at this table with me and let's get this bread. All right, y'all. It's been real. It's been fun. And we will see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.